So this washing machine moved upstairs, and a lot of this transferred into what will be the butler's pantry. Time to get the doors off, get this disassembled, see which way the wire goes, and basically prep this for closet tear out. I'm just enjoying the fact like the sight lines are just so much bigger now.
Oh my god, it feels bigger. Now this room feels huge. It always felt like it still felt big, but it feels huge now.
Yeah, well, we're taking this thing back to like here.
But first, we had to get rid of the actual pantry pieces. And then it was the fun part. Time to demo the pantry closet. Then Chris cut a piece of plywood and put it down over the cold air return hole in the floor because we didn't want our cats getting into the old duct system and disappearing forever. We really like our cats. And another temporary measure was attaching the light switch back to the wall before we put the power back on. Now, this was only a couple of days that this was here, just until Chris had a chance to redo the wiring so that it could be at the proper height and embedded in the wall properly. Since we do live in a house with 2 cats and 2 adults and that's it, we weren't worried about anyone hurting themselves or being stupid about it.
So we opened up the closet here, which reveals the need for another pot light over there. But we have a bit of a conundrum, and that is what circuits are going to be on. Because these 2 lights, which it lines up with, are part of the kitchen. But this is clearly not a kitchen light. And it'd be so much easier just to steal the power from here. But I don't do things the easy way, so I'm gonna blindly drill through 4 studs, or joists, and steal power from the one that makes logical sense. So we got a wire with pre-drilled holes going all the way over there, and I got this thin fishing tape, so I'm going to try to see if I can't push it along the wire all the way over there. To make that happen though, I'm going to make something that will slide. Oh, this is not going to work out. So I got to do this the hard way.
So the drill bit has gone all the way through. We have tied on some string to the end of the drill bit. Chris is going to pull it back out and pull the string with it so we can wire.
Yeah. But you get to count along with me, see how many pieces there are. 1.
Woo!
2. And a socket to join it, so that's 3. 4. 5. Back in the hole.
6. Which is pretty good.
7. The drill bit makes 8.
Woohoo!
And most importantly,
The string is
attached. Because that would have sucked.
Sometimes renovations mean taking out a bunch of things to figure out what the last guy did in terms of the power and the lighting system and the electrical. How good is it, love?
So good.
We think we've got it sorted, but this is why things take forever when you're renovating a home. It is never straightforward.
So, electrical's all done here. While we're waiting on the parts to bury the pipes, in the wall, we can still frame up this section and get it ready for drywall. I will be doing that.
As always, the first step was creating the frame for the drywall to attach to, and actually going through and attaching the drywall that existed to things as well. And then Chris went through and attached all the drywall, cutting it to size and doing his best. He did end up having to cut out a section of the ceiling because once upon a time there was a leak and that drywall was not happy. We kept an eye on it, there was no leak after that, but they didn't patch it properly or remediate it when it happened, so we had to do that now. Since this is our main living space, it does mean we have to clean in between every step of the project so we can still live in the house. So Chris got to cleaning.
Alright, so that's what I'm gonna do before I call it quits tonight. Some of these gaps are pretty big. I've got an open can on the go. Just gonna fill it up with a little bit of foam because that way I don't have to use so much mud later. Alright, good enough. Now you may be wondering why I'm not even bothering to tackle this. There's two reasons. One, we actually want to do some work over shunting some stuff over to the other side through this opening. And two, I want to make sure that this guy is bone dry before continuing. You definitely see what looks to be dripping directly from like above at the seal. And it's still bone dry, so that's pretty good. We're just doing some pre-filling of the joints before we tape them. So nothing too exciting.
Then it was time to remove the pre-existing ducting. The furnace was not something we could use when we moved in. It already had pieces removed, and we have since put in the heat pumps and still used radiators. But that means we don't need the ducting whatsoever. So as we go along and renovate different parts of the house, we are taking it all out.
So working on the corner again today. System's been drained. It's time to get this out of here.
These pipes run directly up to a radiator beside the bed that's weirdly away from the wall, so while we were here taking out all the piping, it just made sense to take out the actual radiator piping and shift it closer to the wall again. And then it was time to drain it from the bottom. There's always a little bit left in the pipes, so just took a laundry tub and away it went. Sanding all the mudding makes so much mess. Because this was the main area of our house, Chris was very kind to me and decided to put up basically a tarp. He ended up using plastic wrap and house wrap and some photography stands that we had and pieces of wood to sandwich that up to the ceiling. He taped against the door and he put them all around so that when he was sanding this area, it didn't get into the rest of the family room and kitchen as much. It still got in there quite a bit. It was a dusting nightmare. You would dust, an hour later you would have to dust again, but it was far less than it would have been if you had just let it fly. Then it would have gone throughout the entire house. So, would recommend this in the future. It really saved us a lot of cleaning. We won't bore you with the hours of mudding and sanding and mudding and sanding and mudding and so on and so forth. We're just going to skip forward to the fun part, which is priming. Now, because we mudded so much, it soaks up primer like a mofo, and it's a very important step. We did do 2 coats of the primer. You'll only see one here because it doesn't make a visual difference the second time. And between the 2 coats, Chris did see a couple more areas that he did some quick fixes on, as he always does. But it's a pretty good, solid wall. There was also a section behind the couch that needed some quick repairs that we did at the same time as everything else, so it got primed as well. Now it looks really weird compared to the already dried old paint, but it makes such a difference and warms up the room so much. Is this our ideal color? No, it's the same color the rest of the room already is, but we didn't want to repaint the whole thing, so we just got more of the paint and kept going with it. Then a very quick rough sand and a second coat, making sure to do all the edging as perfectly as possible.
The wall looks fantastic. We still have to put the things back on, but we're letting it sit for a couple days. But I made the mistake of recommending to Chris that we wash all of the shears and curtains. You know, because some of them got a bit of mud on them, which washes out, and it's a good time to do it. And then he found a couple more spots that he needed to fix, apparently. And there's one over here too. Just a quick mudding and a quick paint tonight, but every time we turn around, there's more holes.
Once those holes were patched and painted, it was time to deal with the floor hole. Now, apparently there were 2 layers of linoleum on the floor, so in the hole where the closet was, Chris took out the old linoleum and subfloor and then put in a new subfloor that equaled the height of the current floor. One day we want to redo this and put down tile, but that's a long ways off, so for now, here's a temporary fix that'll last the next 10 years. And he did both holes from the closet, because of course there were 2 sides to the closet. And he cut open the holes to make sure that they were more square, which was really nice. And once those were all screwed in and cleaned up, it was time to put on the linoleum. He ended up pulling out more of the current linoleum so that the seam of the linoleum and the subfloor wasn't at exactly the same spot, which I think was brilliant. And then he also put down some trim as well, just to keep it safe. And then we had to put on the door trim. Of mitering to do all the trim behind the chair as well. But then it was finally done.